will call our meeting to order, Parks and Recreation Commission, September 2nd, 2021, with our call to order. And our first item of business is approval of minutes. We need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes with one addition that I would like added.
So we get our second and then discuss? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, in 5C, which was the park designation and related matters, I would like one sentence added. There's the whole paragraph there. Scott Arundel reported this was tabled, etc., ending with that will be able to be completed. After that, a sentence. Ready, Scott? Patrick Cheney asked for this to be an agenda item at each meeting for a report on progress. That's the sentence. And that's before the after discussion line. Patrick Cheney asked for this to be an agenda item at each meeting for a report on progress.
So this is under 5C.
5C,
Well,
right between the two paragraphs.
And as you recall, Wade did provide a procedure, and I don't know if it called for a discussion each meeting is what
Well, that was my request a few times over in our discussion, so I would like that sentence. I mean, it could be no report. There's times in the council where alders, give their district reports and say no report. Okay. But just to follow this along and know that it's being worked on and it's something that we're looking forward to more information, I thought that to have it on as an agenda item and each of our meeting agendas would be good.
or
Whatever you want to say about it.
Sure.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Please do.
I thought the takeaway was though that Scott, you had asked the question, but then Scott had said that he would provide updates as they became available. So I don't know if adding that sentence is going to be clear to anyone who reads these notes, since the outcome was that Scott would provide updates as they become available.
If there's nothing to report, he can say no report, just like the alders do. It keeps it sort of, call it on the back burner, or at least on our minds that this is in the works. Mm-hmm. And eventually we will hear something when things are ready. But if it's off the agenda and, we don't see it listed, it's something that we might lose track of or forget that it's in progress, something like that. It's something that I said in the discussion, so I'm asking to add that sentence.
And I think there's a couple ongoing projects that we've got going, so I could certainly make a list of those within communication just to give a brief update if there's no additional information or additional information.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I can do that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
But in the package that Scott put together, there are reports from the director's reports, and then there are other people reports. So he can add that there, you know what I mean? Why do we need to, I don't know. So it's part of his director report, so I don't know why, you know what I mean?
It's,
should be separate.
The reason for me adding the sentence is just a little more that reflects on the discussion that we did have in the meeting. I mean, it's not a verbatim word for word of our whole discussion, but since I made that request a few times over, I would like it noted. Doesn't absolutely mean even that it has to be on the agenda, but I'm asking. It is on our agenda for September here.
And I see Scott is nodding his head that he's got it figured out already,
Okay.
how he's going to implement it.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's good for staff too, to keep it on the agenda, and if there's nothing new to report, that's easy enough too.
Yep. And I don't have anything else. Does anyone else have any friendly amendments on anything?
All right, we've had a motion, a second with these additions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We only got 2 votes there. Speak up.
Aye. Okay. All right, we're going to move on then to, we are not seeing any public appearances. Next is item 4, review and approve agenda. A motion to approve the agenda is what we're looking for?
I'll move to approve the agenda with one comment.
Okay, and we'll get the second, and then we'll talk.
Second.
The comment is, since I'm the one that requested the please note new start time in red and stars and all that at the top for 4 meetings, which I sort of had in mind, minimum of 4 meetings. I would like that through the end of this calendar year. That should be good enough. I think that's 6.
Then Scott is again shaking his head affirmatively. Okay. Anything else regarding the agenda? All right,
Otherwise,
Bill.
approved, or move to approve as written.
Okay, a second.
I think Julie.
Oh, we have a second, okay. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are on to our discussion and action items, and the first is Stoner Prairie Park Planning, discussion 5A. And Scott will, I'm assuming, lead us as we go.
That sounds good. And what my thought was for tonight's discussion regarding this item is Chris Cena, Park Commission member Chris Cena, was kind enough to put together a summary of, he took a look at the survey results and put together a little bit of a summary. And what my thought was is that we could, if you don't mind, go through that summary. And at the end of the day, my goal is to get the Park Commission's thoughts on what components or amenities or features should be included in this plan. And then what I'll do as staff is we'll go back and begin to start to put some draft plans together. I will note that I did get a call from the city administrator, and he asked me to share with the Park Commission that in a week or so, we're going to be sitting down and discussing further the potential of the use of park improvement fees for the creation of these draft documents. So that is still potentially in the mix, which I was glad to hear, and it might just be a continuing conversation in regards to what park improvement fees can be utilized for. So I just wanted to share that with you, that at the end of the day, it might be a case of I might be able to hire a landscape architect, if you would, and then I would just relay this information to them, or they may even come in and kind of get a summary of what the Park Commission feels. But if that falls through, then we as staff will kind of put together the different draft plans, and then we'll have a working session, and that might be a little bit rudimentary in regards to, I don't know how to do the fancy drawings and all that kind of stuff, but I think we can go through it. So that is a little bit of a prelude, and
Should we just leave our questions until you have that to explain more and announce?
Well, I think we'll just kind of roll with it, Patrick, and if comments or thoughts come up at the time, and again, I guess at the end of the day, my goal is to make sure that I'm clear and understanding on what components and amenities need to be included in this draft plan. And we might move things around just to provide a couple different options, but really just try to determine which amenities need to be included.
Well, I'm talking about your planning, funding for planning that you're talking about, that the city administrator is going to look for a way or explain how to, like you say, hire someone.
What in your question is?
I'm wondering if this is for all the levels of park, community area, neighborhood, or
Just
undetermined right now?
park planning in general.
Any park planning?
Yeah, any park planning.
Okay,
You know, Terra Vesta, we kind of did our own park plan, you know, we kind of did it internally.
right.
But we've got other areas that have a lot of different pieces. So to come, you know, to have like the Northeast neighborhood and even Terra Vesta, we did an individual park, but to have a park master plan for the entire development would be helpful. Okay, are we all, oh,
I see a hand raised, Julia.
Yeah, so I am, I am all in favor that that we should hire an external consultant architect to design this park because of the size of the park. And I am all in favor. I don't think that staff have capacity or knowledge to do this, but the time and the skill to draft a plan for a park of this size. I want to have more, I want to have more direction about how to use park dedication fee, because my understanding was that when I was trying to use it for the design of another park, they told me that we cannot use those fees. So now I am hearing that we can use those fees. So I would like to have any more. It's fine if we can use it. I am not against, fine. But I want to know that I think where is that in the ordinance or in the that we can use those to be sure that we can use this fee to hire to use it for a design, because I am confused now, because I have heard the opposite in the past. So so I want to have more clarification, Scott, for next time. If you can tell us where in the code and the ordinance is explicit that we can use those funds for that.
And I think, Julia, just as a comment, I think this is evolving. As the conversation continues, opinions and ideas may be changing, but certainly I think at the end of the day, just as we, kind of tried to walk through the park classification, what was the objective criteria that allowed us to determine that this was going to be a community park. I think as we continue to grow as a community, these are the growing pains, if you would, and I think when these items come up, they tend to then focus on, those details of what's going on here. So I think it's a continuing conversation, and it's evolving and all of those kinds of things. So I think that's good, and I think that's healthy, and at the end of the day, it would be nice to, as a director, go to these policies and say, okay, for park planning, these are the steps we do, this is what we can do. For a job or for a park classification, these are the criteria, and make it as objective as we possibly can. But we're just not there, so we're kind of, we're walking, we're kind of discussing it and walking through it. So.
Okay, and so, right, I'm hearing that was then, this is now, and we're just learning that things might be able to be different in the future.
Yeah.
And you don't even know, you haven't had a meeting, so you don't know what that entails.
Right.
And Julia, do you have questions
Yeah,
still?
but this is what I am all. If we are going to evolve, it great. But I think what we need to talk about consistencies, because when we try to use the design money for design the park with the inclusive playground and the hub, I was told that I can use those. We cannot even touch the fund, and you know what I mean. And I am kind of confused, and I want to have clarification. And if we are evolving, great, but consistency in applying fund for an equity, how we apply this fund is critical. So if we are planning in the future, decided to use this fee park also to pay for consultants for design and other stuff, it's fine. But I think we need to have a better clarification and determine first of all if we can do it, because now I want to be sure that it can be done. That's it.
Okay. All right, so, Patrick?
Just one comment, it would be another budget line to watch, because whatever the funds are that Chad might find that can be spent on planning, we, obviously can't spend tens of thousands of dollars on every single park plan that we want to work on.
Yeah, there's only so many dollars
Yeah.
that are collected from each of those individual developments, right? Okay, are we
Yes.
good? Can we just start to physically roll through this? And again, I'm just going to kind of go through it piece by piece for all neighborhoods. Multi-use or walking paths seem to be good, good connectivity. And I think locally within the area, but also regionally with all the regional plans. It does indicate path lighting, so it must be some kind of path lighting. And it definitely is no athletic field lighting, or field lighting. So I think are we all good with that? The next one,
Are we going to just kind of comment on each section here
well,
based on
sure.
Chris's?
Well, right, and if you have a general concept or comment, then I can write that down and keep that in mind when we start to put together the plans, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I did is I took all of the surveys printed out and then I went through the graphs. I mean, if anybody cares how I did this. And I looked at each graph independently. I had read through Chris's notes and everything first, but then I independently started going through the survey results, and I looked on each graph for trying to reduce it to a question of yes, build it, or no, don't build it. But there could also be a don't care, not interested, didn't answer the question, or something like that. Could be a possible too. And then I went through for each neighborhood and charted out what I thought they seemed to be saying, yes, no, or don't care. And then I gave it a little bit more weight to the Stoner Prairie and the Wildwoods, since there was a lot of people that responded. A little bit less for Lacey Heights, and only a little for Seminole. For instance, there was only 9 responses. That can, skew a survey quite a bit. And then I came up with a sort of a final list on my own. I suppose, each of us going through this would come up with differences here and there. As far as the all neighborhoods, I did actually pick up on several more things that, in my interpretation and my analysis, seemed to be in favor. And that would include dog walking, open rec fields, the quiet areas, natural areas, youth equipment, a shelter, shade structures at playgrounds, winter sports, and bench table seating. Those are things that I thought overall, they kind of seemed more so to agree on all of those too. I mean, Chris had just the 4. I actually come up with another 8, I guess, that I thought
Well,
I
and
have a
Chris-
in favor.
Chris actually identified those other features from each of the individual neighborhoods, so they are
Well-
included in there, I guess.
Yeah, and I did go through his, the same comments there that Chris has for each of the 4 neighborhoods, but I did that first, and then I put that together to come up with a whole entire group consensus, and that's why I came up with these other ones, in addition to the 4 that Chris listed for all neighborhoods.
And maybe what is gonna help me is I do see a lot of these amenities, and the big thing that I wanted to look for was the red flags, if you would.
Yeah.
And definitely no field lighting is
Right.
a red flag. So,
Right.
all these other things are, and if we could just kind of go through them, and then as they come up, we can kind of discuss them. And maybe it's just a comprehensive, this is a comprehensive list of the amenities that are going to be included, independent of the neighborhood, that, Chris, independent of where Chris gathered the information from.
Well, for example, Stoner Prairie says youth play, Lacey Heights says youth play, Wildwood says youth play, Seminole Forest says youth play. But at least in Chris's version on all neighborhoods, he doesn't have youth play in
I-
it. So I added that one in my
Yeah.
list for
I-
youth, for
I think it's,
all neighborhoods.
yeah, I think we're,
Otherwise, through the neighborhoods there, I was in a lot of agreement with the way
Right.
that Chris analyzed it.
yeah.
All right, and Julia, I see, has a question or remark?
My comment is that if we are planning to hire a consultant to go through this, I think, we should provide the consultant this information that Chris put together and all the raw information from the survey. And then we should have like a, they should have put something together and then can bring to us that information, and then we can make recommendation, because now we're going through this by line, but we're going to keep here until 10 o'clock at night. And everyone, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I am concerned about if we are going to go through this exercise, how long it's going to take. That's it.
If I might, I'm just kind of trying to get a thumbs up, a thumbs down, not a, we're not going to really get into the analysis of anything. It's just a green light or a red light is really all I'm after. Nothing more than that, really.
So, Scott, when you say a green light, it's for going ahead when you have your discussion with our administrator, that these documents are brought forward, and then any comments we also give to you in relation?
And I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for the Park Commission to interject additional information and ideas. And I'm just trying to get a general idea of, like I said, there's no field lights. We're all in agreement. So there won't be any field lights included. Toddler play. Are we good that we're going to want to have toddler play, which is the smaller playgrounds?
Right, well,
This is my question again. We shouldn't go through this list like that. Maybe you should ask to every one of us, what do we envision to see in that park? Like a 50,000, vision, and say, do we want to see this as a park? Because I want to tell you, I want to give you my recommendation, the thing that I think we should be doing with this piece of land. But I am not going to go to the detail on how to do it, how to build it, you know what I mean? Because that one is, I don't have those, this is not my area of expertise. But I want to tell you, maybe as a resident of the city, and because we need to take in consideration all the parks that we have in the system, all the parks that they are close to that area, if we are going to replicate park amenity, playground, or, what is, or we are going to try to do something different with this area, more like a natural area, it's going to be an area where we want to see a lot of sport activity, of equipment or amenities. So I would say that, if it, I don't feel comfortable to go into this list and give you the green or a red light, 1-to-1, to be honest. So, but this is my.
well, one of the things I want to make sure we're all, and I'm going to have to take a step backwards to do it. Scott, when you're talking about the comments your discussion with the city administrator, you said hiring perhaps a landscape architect or park planner to create renderings based on the survey results we already have, and then comments from the Parks Commission? Or were you saying a parks planner to start from the beginning? What are you saying?
No, what I'm saying is we've gathered information.
Yes.
We've begun to start to analyze that information, and then I want the Park Commission to affirm what staff is seeing as far as what should be included and what shouldn't be included.
And so we have two documents. We have just the first page is the list, then the second page is a little bit more of a narrative of Christopher's comments. Katie, you're shaking your head.
I would say that we take our park and open space plan, which is the document that is approved as the formula that this city is required to follow as we do park planning. Take a look at what is required for a neighborhood, an area, or a community park. identify those elements that make sense to go into this type of park. There may be a few items that are also included in this survey that we want to also look at as adding, but the survey only gives you a response back on what was asked of them. So it's not a list of these are the items that only should go into this park. It was just a response to what people were asked. So it's a little bit of information, but it's not a guiding force as to what should go into this park. That should be the park and open space plan.
Right, we should be led by that. And just knowing the process used by ad hoc committee, myself in one of the lead roles, we didn't quite do it that way. So we do have information from the survey respondents, but it isn't the only thing that should inform the process. Patrick?
I was assuming that the questions about all of these facilities and such were based off of the park and open space plan for what's appropriate for this as an area park. I mean, if a question asks for, do you want an airport, but there's no provision for an airport in an area park, why would there be a question?
I would say that the ad hoc committee, the questions that were put together it was an ad hoc committee that was making good decisions based off what they knew, but that doesn't mean that what was taken into account was based off of the park and open space plan.
Did the ad hoc committee come up with these questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's a disconnect between the park and open space plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, and that was,
Well, then it's kind of filtered by the open park and open space plan. If the question asks for something, even if people agreed, but we determine or Scott determines it's not appropriate for this as an area park, I guess we just cross it off then, right?
I would never say cross something off, but I do think that the park
Well,
and open space
airport,
plan is a guideline that, should hold some weight. And typically, yes, you would want a playground at any type of park.
Sure. That probably is appropriate for all community area and neighborhood, yeah. But I haven't looked at that list lately of, the short list of a neighborhood, the larger list of an area park, and the big list of a community park.
Mm-hmm.
so that leaves us with,
I proposed my thoughts, so
Can I
Well-
do a short?
absolutely, absolutely.
So of the items that Chris pulled together on the summary sheet, multiple say youth or toddler play, those make good sense. They follow what is in our park and open space plan for any of the size parks. It would make sense to see the information that was provided back on the survey. People are in favor of them, that's great, and it is something that would typically be into these parks. Shade structures, I would say, are a popular amenity. They don't take up much space. Sounds like a great thing to try and incorporate into our plan. There is interest in potentially basketball. We know that the shelter is pretty much a given, so I would say that we have youth and toddler play. We have shade structures to incorporate into that. We have potentially looking at basketball as something that people in the local area were interested in. And we have paths and connectivity that is something that we certainly want to focus on in this park. And that's not going to take up the full area of this park, so then we should go back to our park and open space plan. Look at what amenities that suggests to go into this type of park. And then staff, since Scott was just saying that they might take a run at this internally, can vet those lists and see what fits. And if we do multiple renderings, some may keep most of the existing facilities, and some may take a blank slate and start over in a different direction. And that's why you do multiple layouts.
I like that.
go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, one thing I might add to that, just for context or timing, that in speaking to the engineering department in regards to the well, they have not begun that well design process at this point, so they will keep us in the loop. But I think that's going to be a big decision as far as, it seems to appear, and that would be included in an area park amenity to have bathrooms and a shelter. So that seems to be one of the things that we would include in there. And then I know there's been discussion at the Park Commission in regards to parking. So I think that's something that we've got to keep in mind when we're designing the park. I know the neighbors are concerned, which I would be too, that they're not using up their public parking space in front of their location. And I think a good way to kind of manage the rental of this facility is to limit, if you would, the ability of outside, people traveling to the shelter to reserve the shelter. So I think this shelter, in theory, could be available for rent by the area residents. So in theory, they could walk there or ride a bike or those. Certainly there's going to be folks who aren't able to do that, so to have a small parking lot, 5 or 6 stalls for loading, unloading, and getting people who aren't quite able to mobile, be as mobile, to have a spot for them, along with the idea that, okay, you cannot, this is the only area that you can street park. So I think there's a way that we can manage the rental of that potential shelter, if you would, to meet everybody's concerns.
Okay, and Julia?
Yeah, so I want to follow up what you mentioned, and this is how I think we need to envision when we talk about developing a new park. So this park is going to be an area park. It's not going to be a neighborhood park, okay? So when we talk about area parks, we need to think about how the connectivity with the rest of the parks in the system, and also we need to determine that it's going to be open to everyone, okay? So it's an area park. And then we need to provide the facility of people coming from all the areas of the city. They want to enjoy this park. We need to provide some parking access. I don't know if 5 to 6 stalls is going to be enough. I don't know that. But what I want to mention is focus on in the bigger vision is we need to build a park where residents of the city, everyone can enjoy it, especially this is going to be an area park, okay? Second, my other recommendation is we shouldn't be replicating amenities that they are located in parks very close to this area. And there is a in the package there is a picture that the name is Stone Prairie Park Neighborhood Scale, where it shows where the other parks are and what are the amenities that the other park has. So the idea, maybe we should create or develop amenity here that the other parks don't have, so there should be a unique amenity for this area. We need to look at the natural landscaping of the area, so we need to, maybe people say that they want to walk and have paths. Maybe we can create like a prairie where people can walk, and in winter time people can do a snowshoeing, So maybe we should have an area where it's quiet, where people can, it has native plant, tree, and people can bench and people can go there and sit and be quiet, So this is how, how they're gonna do, this is how I envision like an area like this, you know what I mean? So then the detail about what type of playground to put and what is, that one we leave it to the experts. But so that one, I think I would like all of us to think about this park, because it's going to be an area park.
And I'll to pick up on Katie's thought that certainly there's goals within our park and open space plan, which, talk about natural resources and all of those kinds of things. And those are the things that we should, we talk about the 3 S's with seams and sociability and solitude. So those are all the factors, along with our amenity chart, we should include along with the comments that we received from the neighbors to kind of develop this plan. So I think we're all on the same page, to be honest with you. That we, when we design it, we should utilize the park and open space plan as our guide. We can utilize the feedback that we receive from the community to, make those hard decisions. We're not going to put lights on the athletic fields kind of thing. So I think we are on the same page. And at the end of the day, when I looked at all of these amenities that the community selected, they are in our amenity chart. So there isn't anything that's far-fetched or anything like that. So I think we need to work to put an area park plan together that's going to mirror the rules or not the rules, but the policies of our park and open space plan. So I think and like I say, what staff will do is we'll try to, take a crack at it. If we're able to hire someone to come in professionally to help us, we'll do that. And then we'll come back to the park commission, as soon as we can and let you know what we find out. So I think it's been time well spent where we specifically thought about this and looked at it, and I think we're all kind of getting the idea of how this plan should be created, and so I think it's all good. And at the end of the day, if it's something that we can hire someone to come in and help us, we'll know in the future where we interject that professional help into the process. So.
Yes. Did you have something, Katie? Yes.
I just have one other comment, and that would be that I would encourage that we do look at continuing to provide facilities at this particular park that are conducive to the ultimate Frisbee leagues that currently use the park. They have a long history at this particular one. They had several members that came and talked during the ad hoc committee who talked about how it is getting more and more difficult to find large open spaces where they can set up multiple fields, just because large open fields they're difficult to find in urban areas. And it's not necessarily a use that people see much during the day, or you don't see a physical structure that looks like it's a well-used park. But they said this is actually a very popular one. There was someone on the ad hoc committee that lives next to it that said they moved to the city because they were on leagues and had played at that field. And I think it's actually a good position for it, not only because it already exists there, but because it's often an evening or night league, and this particular park area, only a portion of it fronts on residential areas. There are schools on two significant sides of it, so it's a smaller impact at night on fronting residences.
Right. Right.
And I think, to your point, Katie, I think it is a good, that's an area park amenity as open play space. And I think we can manage that group with, okay, you're only out there how many days or whatever it might be. So I think there's ways to manage it to make sure that everybody is comfortable with. And if you know that east-west path that kind of separates the active area, which is the school campus, the ball diamond, and where the well station is going to be, from the northern part, which is going to be next to the neighborhood and the buffer and all of those kinds of things. So I think the site really does kind of lend itself to accommodate both of those types of activities.
Yeah, and I agree and learned through the process how much the organizers of the league, even though it's called Madison Ultimate Frisbee, there are a lot of people locally who play, and they will bend over backwards to not be a nuisance, but they have to know when there's a problem. And so I think there'll be some adjustment time for the people who live there now, haven't even moved in yet. If they think there's a problem, who do they call? There's no insurmountable problem here, I don't see. And I'm going to take us down a detail just for a moment that relates to this and the size of the playing area. In this packet on the final page, there's the North Stoner Prairie Neighborhood Plan, concept plan, the very colorful plan. And that not in the right-hand corner, sort of mid to bottom on the right, there's a green area that's number 8. That's roughly where the park is. And you can see a lot line at the bottom between the school and the park. It's a little hard to see if you haven't got this. I gotta make my own a little larger. Yeah. And there's I know Scott knows about this, but I finally had an aha moment looking at this today. As far as connecting paths, getting here and there, and we have a little problem with a path that ended up going between 2 building lots and coming out where and ending where a chain link fence stops anybody from going onto the school grounds. And I thought, why did that happen? And now I see why it happened. This concept plan showed the path coming across below or south of our actual park lot line and connecting at a certain point to the existing school paths. And that there's logic to that, but when this actually was implemented and paved, it got paved right up against a fence that the school at least initially has said they don't want to cut a hole open and let anybody walk through it. Now that may change. But now the reason this relates to MUFA is it'd be great if that path would be south of our existing lot line. Because right now MUFA uses all that space. Sometimes they spill out onto school property and they can get another playing field in when they need it. So as we look for solutions to the path that ends at a chain link fence, I hope we can work with the school to approach doing a path right where it comes up against a chain link fence straight across as an option, because otherwise we're bisecting what was once a gigantic open green space by our path if it runs along the lot line. I'm sorry if you haven't been walking around there like I have lately, it probably doesn't make too much sense, but it's an idea.
And certainly, I'm thinking the school district is going to be, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they'll be receptive to the idea, and, might be a D, we might have to become city property, and, all of those kinds of things for liability purposes, but that would seem to make sense.
It would solve the little problem that we have, and
Yeah, and I think that,
hopefully,
yeah.
maybe it'll work.
I think that could be worked through, absolutely.
Okay, sorry for the thing, and I see Sarah Schroeder.
Thanks. I just had one question that I do agree with Christopher that I think he did a nice job summarizing, and the points that he called out, I do think seem to resonate with me as being popular within the surveys as well. I would just say that I also agree with how he called out that the MUFA in particular will just be a delicate situation, because there were several surveys, and I would say quite a few, that called out the disinterest in having league play. And so I just think that will be kind of a delicate conversation that will just have to be balanced, because without a doubt recognize the value that the fields provide to that organization. But for the area park, we should keep in mind the feedback from the residents as well. And just, I think Christopher just said it really well. Just have it be a balance.
Agreed. And my final thought is just also to recall, if necessary, as passed along to staff, the discussion from last month without reviewing that last month's discussion today. Now, any other comments? I see one.
So if I'm understanding, as you said, and how we're interpreting the survey answers, I'm kind of reading between the lines that the league play in all of the surveys was a no, but that may have been based on this on-street parking problem, I guess. And we are trying to solve that by saying that if we have the MUFA members park in the school grounds, which is in the evening when school's not in session, that should solve the problem of parking and, I guess, filling up the streets. Even though there may be some kind of through the fence or whatever path access needed.
Well, there's a path that comes up to the fence from Wayfair Street that just because of a misunderstanding ended up coming up against a fence that the school right now says they don't want to open up.
Uh-huh.
That's going to probably change. This MUFA always could use the school lots, but had sort of fallen away from reminding the players to do it. And then also the alders met with the neighbors of Stoner Prairie to talk about parking on Scarlet Drive a couple weeks ago, and some of that was addressing latecomers to games parking too close to the crosswalk. So they're going to be putting some signs in to designate no parking too close to the crosswalk. So there's all kinds of things in motion to make people happier that are, good things going on. And, the park, there was, in part, frankly, at the meetings, because the whole planning area in our city documents is called North Stoner Prairie Neighborhood, which encompasses a lot of area, Sub-Zero, Crescent Crossing, where the church is, et cetera. But then one developer also called his neighborhood Stoner Prairie. The people living in Stoner Prairie, in some ways, were viewing the park, not all of them and not in all ways, but viewing the park as theirs alone. And so they were, I think some of them, not comfortable with the question was, why do people come from Madison, Ultimate Frisbee, to play at our park? So it was really kind of defining, what are the definitions of Stoner Prairie? What's the definition of Madison Ultimate Frisbee? I don't know if we ever convinced everybody that it was a park for 5 neighborhoods and also serves our community. And so that's some of the, and I just think over time that those concerns go away, especially because MUFA is going to bend over backwards to not aggravate anybody. Anything else? All right, we're going to close out then 5A, and we are at 5B, Resolution R-148-21. I've got to get to my next agenda to read what it's called. The resolution to approve a contract for services for North Fish Hatchery Road Hub Phase 1, north side of Traceway Drive, final design. And Scott?
And I'm thinking it might, this is our continuing project, the continuing hub project, and I think the resolution did a great job of kind of giving the history of the project. So I thought it might make sense just to quickly, and naturally the resolution is at the bottom of this whole packet. It gave a good history. Wade drafted the resolution and really provides a good timeline and all of those kinds of things. So I think what I wanted to do is to run a review of the resolution, which is a good snapshot of what we're doing. At this point, what we're doing is we're hiring a firm to come in and put the construction documents together, if you would, and bid the project. Is the stage that we're at. Here, what page? 296 is the start of the resolution. And I'll kind of roll through it. And actually, the first whereas clause kind of identifies what the park planning project was that we undertook. We did have 3 different areas. We had a public park space, we had an indoor space, and then we also had, as you recall, the Nine Springs Golf Course. but we aren't going to do anything with that at this point. The city did budget $2.4 million for this project, including $288 for the final design, which is really the contract that we're approving with this resolution. We had a pretty comprehensive process where we had an RFP and interviews and an interview team and all of those kinds of things. And we decided to stay with, or we selected Engberg as the group to help us with this project. There's park fees that have been collected. And actually on the second page, the now be it hereby resolved, that's the amount that the contract is going to be worth. $235,200. That's going to be the cost of the contract. The last three, be it further resolved, are finance situations and items where we have both 202 accounts and 203 accounts, where it basically indicates that the money came in and the money's being moved to a spot where we can use it. Is really kind of at the end of the day is what it's saying. Now with this, well, and I guess I don't want to confuse it anymore. How does that sound? Is there any questions about that?
I was confused by those three, be it further resolved, but thank you for explaining that, because I couldn't figure them out.
Yeah, it's finance, and they, got to move funds around. But basically, we received, if you go through it, we received from the, we received $679,810 in fee in lieu of parkland dedication, $25,120. That's from the Terrace Point development. That's from the development across the road. For a total of, you add those up, and that comes along with when they did the senior housing project. We had $5,435 in park improvement fees that they gave to us. So what Misty did is she put all of those together. So we have a total of $710,365 to utilize, and of that we're going to use $235,200 for this contract with Engberg. And what they're going to do, like I say, is they're going to kind of do the final design, bid it, and they're actually looking at a second quarter, April through September construction period or so. So the middle, the spring to maybe the fall of next year, when this facility will be constructed. Now, this does not include the open air hard court surface portion. So it doesn't include that. Although Wade, what he did is he submitted a lot of grant applications, and we actually just had an interview with the CDBG grant program, so that there are some funding sources that are out there, which in theory, if those come to fruition, we may be able to add that piece of the project. So I think that is a pretty good summary of it. And certainly, if you've got any questions.
I see Julia has a question or a comment.
So I have a comment. So the other thing that we are doing with this resolution is we're moving some of there are two funds for the park dedication fee. One was for the old park dedication fee that were collected following an old policy, is the 204. And then what we're trying to do is move some of those newer park fee from the 202 to the 203 fund. That's it. This is what it say at the end. The other question, when you say that we are not gonna build, what part is not included?
The hard surface covered area.
So the shelter
The what?
is the shelter.
No, the shelter is included, the playground's included, the bike facility's included,
Yeah.
but when you go to the west,
Do you have a map? Because
it's
I
open
am.
courts that has covering to it, right?
Open courts with a roof, but no walls. So,
Yeah,
Oh,
you're trying to find an image. 256? Oh, page 56, Katie's telling me.
so okay.
Oh,
56.
page 56. Oh, you were quick there, Katie.
If you type in page number up at the top there, it'll
It's
jump to it.
coming. It's
PC,
coming.
don't,
Okay.
there, okay, there, that's a perfect
So-
image.
that part is,
So, but so is that one is not coming? Okay, and that one should be the most important piece of the park.
well, it's just on that top photograph, it's the left-hand, or rendering, it's the left-hand side only. Just the,
Yeah, I know.
okay,
What the project's gonna include is the building, the hub
Okay.
building. There's a bike feature
Yeah.
behind and a playground behind. So it's gonna include this playground and this bike and then this building. But it does not include this covered hard court area, which is here. But as I
So-
mentioned, if all goes well, we might be able to, in grant funding, be able to secure enough dollars to move with that part of the project. And maybe just a further clarification with your 202 and 203, Julia. Some of those dollars are more restrictive in the time in which you have to spend them. So Misty wants to spend the ones that have that restriction to make sure that we utilize those dollars before we have to give them back, actually. We don't want to give them back, that's right. Definitely, yeah. You vote for that, Patrick?
yeah.
So that's, let me, where's the referral sheet? So this will go to, oh, man. I think it comes back, it should be approved by the council at the end of September, I believe. Don't quote me on that, though. I'm trying to find the referral sheet.
I think it's going to Public Works,
Yep,
Finance, and Council.
Yep. But I can't find the referral sheet. It's gotta be in there somewhere. But yeah, it'll go back to the board, it will go to the Board of Public Works, and then Finance. And actually, I think we're going to do the full circuit. I think we might be going to CETA, because they're involved in it. There might be a couple other groups that we go and talk to about it.
Question on
Patrick, yes.
something? If you could take a look at page 60,
60.
this open air structure you're talking about, is it one of the numbers on page 60, one of the red numbers? Okay. That's what I thought, yeah.
Number 1, yep.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I did a pretty good job of describing that, maybe.
All right.
Well,
no, Go ahead, Patrick.
Just another question on something now. I think, 56, no, let's see, what did I go to? Well, let me get the right page here. 296. Okay, just before the resolution number, on page 295, that was one thing that I was wondering about on page 295 is the budget reconciliation that you were doing, Scott. I just noticed that was June of 2020. Is there an update of these budget numbers for this year? It's it's a little more than a year old.
Oh, yeah, I can see if I can't,
Okay.
because,
Because, what I was looking at that here, several of these things are done. The Mckee pickle
oh, yeah.
bar is done. I think, if that was the budgeted amount, 320,000, it came in at 297, didn't it? So there was some money left over, I think.
Yeah,
The Mckee water line is done. Let's see, not the inclusive playground yet. Splash pad changing room is done. Parking lot expansion is done. NSGC improvements was canceled entirely by the council. So there's some, updating of figures there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, yeah.
Okay, so if you have a
I'll see if
more
I,
update one.
sure.
Well, any other questions or comments? All right, Scott, when you do my performance evaluation, you'll have to note that I forgot to ask for a motion at the onset of this agenda item. So at this point, we need a motion for
To approve the
Resolution R
agenda?
148-21.
Oh,
I didn't ask for a motion.
oh, man.
I led us all through all this discussion.
Sue, you're doing
I know.
you're doing good.
All right, well, who is going to give us the motion for this item?
I can do it. I move approval of Resolution R-148-21, a resolution to approve a contract for services for the North Fish Hatchery Road Hub Phase 1. It's the north side of Tracy Way Drive in the final design.
A second?
I'll second.
Katie, thank you. So now, any further discussion, just to be formal about it?
Good job.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, carries. So we are at 6A, the Park Open Space Plan update.
And as you recall, Wade did provide a memo, which the Park Commission saw last month, and the first item on that list for the Park and Open Space Plan update was a public meeting in late September. And I wanted to let you know that we've got that scheduled for September 30th. And maybe just a clarification of what we're planning to do on that day. If you recall, Wade did indicate hold a general community public meeting identifying plan update, process, timeline, and major components. So I suspect what we're going to do is review all the major components, maybe indicate the things that we've identified, have done, and then ask for public participation or comments in each of those specific areas. And I'm also thinking that the meeting's going to be here, so we'll allow folks to participate via Zoom or whatever it might be. And then certainly we'll call the question at the end of the day, after we go through each of those components, is there anything that the public would like to see included, or any thoughts or any comments? So I wanted to kind of share with you where that's at. The next item.
Question.
Yep.
How is that meeting being conducted? It's not a parks meeting?
Don't.
Are you?
It's just it's a public. It's a public community meeting.
Right, are you conducting the meeting, or how?
What's that?
Are you conducting the meeting, or
Yep.
how's it go?
Staff will conduct it.
Okay.
Yep. And I suspect we'll post it as a, public meeting. There may be a quorum of groups and all those kinds of things. And we'll have an open house at 6:30. So we'll, have displays and things like that, and then have a a presentation at 7 is what the thought is. And really kind of focusing on the, you know, the main, as Wade indicated here, the major components of the plan. So I wanted to give you that update.
Can I?
Yes, I'm
make a
sorry. Please go
recommendation?
ahead.
Sorry, Sue.
I didn't see, sorry.
So, Scott, since this one is gonna be, a community public hearing meeting, I will, recommend that we do an outreach that includes everyone, okay? Because we posted in Facebook, we posted in the website. It doesn't mean that we are outreaching everyone in the community. So I wanna volunteer. If you want, give me the information in English. I can translate into Spanish, so we can, you know, we can also invite the Latino community in the north part of Fish Hatchery, and also we should be very how we are going to use the Fitchburg Star also to in the page that the city has, and the deadline, the Fitchburg Star is going to be there out next week by the 10th. So maybe if we can, you know, add in our page, like this community meeting is going to be held the 30th. So it's included in the printing version. So because sometimes I think that it's good that we use the social media platform, but they are not enough because we have a community, or we have a large group of people that they don't use the social media to receive information from the city. So that's it.
Very good.
The translation is appreciated.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Then the inclusive playground update. We did bid the site work, but we had one bid, and so we did reject that bid. So now we're in the process of publicly bidding each of those individual components. So that's what we're working on. I will tell you that we've ordered the playground. So the reality of the situation is I hope we can get the site ready and the playground installed. I did reach out to the Port in Place contractors, and they are willing to hold their price if we get that contract by the end of the year. So I'm thinking I'm going to work towards that end, and then they'll probably do the installation in the spring is the way it's kind of shaken out. But also, as you remember, we now that we've had the final design of the playground structure, they can work with the actual design or the actual thickness of the Port in Place and the subsurfacing and all of that. So there is some refining that needs to be done to that plan. But we did get prices, and we do have a low bidder, and I actually reached out to them. They said they'd keep the price to the end of the year, and they actually reached out to Lee Recreation because they work together to kind of figure out how to do that, along with, I'm interested in a couple different designs, you know, color and all of those kinds of things. So hopefully in the future, I'll be able to provide that to the group and get some feedback from you guys.
And did I read right, Scott, that the equipment itself has been ordered?
That has been ordered, yep.
I wondered what did you find about price changes given this year of?
Well, it's not so much price change, it's more the supply chain.
Availability?
Yeah.
Or
it's more-
supply chain, got it.
But they said that they would be able to provide the equipment by this fall for installation. But again,
Yeah, and at a price that's not too far out of line of what you expected, is that what you're saying?
what's that?
The price is not too far out of line of what you were expecting?
The price was, well, we had an $80,000 budget, so everybody, I don't understand what
Okay,
you're saying.
I thought, you'd been anticipating your money would go so far, and it's the prices have not gone up so much as to limit your options.
I think we've got a good, good structure for $80,000, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yep,
good.
yep.
Patrick?
On page 299 and 300 is the bid, and I understand, yeah, the one bidder was way more than twice over the engineer's estimate. Just one comment here, the bid comparison pages usually would put the itemized, and itemize the items side by side with the engineer's estimates. This just has the column on page 200 for the engineer's estimate, but it doesn't break out item by item comparable to what Speedway sent in gravel. So, I mean, we just don't know what was so expensive that threw it all off. Maybe everything, I don't know.
Well, and
Usually they compare item by item.
At the end of the day, I think that this is really a small project, and everyone is so busy, and they could have made room for it if you're willing to pay twice what it would cost.
Would you say, I mean, for all of these items that are listed, 9 different items, they were just high on everything?
But I would say generally it is probably double what the
Yeah.
engineering estimate was, generally, yeah.
Okay, on everything, not, 1 or 2 items that were way over and other
Yeah,
things were in line. It's either either the engineer's estimate was way low and very optimistic, or the bid from the one sole bidder was really high, which is probably the true side of it.
And like I say, these are real small projects, and
Yeah.
people are really busy, and if we're willing to pay, that premium, they'll make room for the project, so.
Sure. And then when this changes then on page 301 in the now be it hereby resolved, so that Public Works and Parks will do the site preparation. I was just curious on something. I mean, that sounds fine, reduce the cost that a bidder would have to do.
Okay, and
Julia
Julia?
seems
One
to
sec.
want it.
No, we already, we shouldn't be discussing this because it was rejected by the council, and that one is here for informational purpose, but we shouldn't be discussing because this one is passed. You know what I mean? So,
Well, this is going forward from here.
no, the council voted down this, and they include an amendment to
Right.
allow the staff to work in this project.
Right, I know.
But we are not going to discuss anymore. We already council approved, we move it forward. That's it. We
Okay.
are not going to go on,
Never mind, Julia doesn't want me to talk about it.
You picked up what she was laying down, Patrick.
I
Good job.
guess.
Okay, so we have concluded then our
Well,
discussion? Or is there more you want to add, Scott?
Well, yeah, the pickleball courts.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yep, we've, and I think I've been doing a pretty good job of trying to keep everybody up to speed. I think we're gonna have the local pickleball association is gonna help us put on a ribbon cutting on the 21st of September. So that's a lot of positive enthusiasm for that project. Splash pad, that was closed on Tuesday, was the last day. But I think that's about all I had.
That's your
Thank
your
you.
report. And we have the others presented in writing. I didn't have any questions on any of those. Did anyone have questions? Julia, I see you.
Yes, Sue, thank you. I received an email from a resident and asked me, why do we close the splash pad on when is next weekend is the last one, when we have more warm weather during September? Why we don't keep it open the whole month of September? Do you know, Scott, why the city is
Yep.
doing this?
Hey, let me, I can, what we do is we hire the seasonal summer help, and they're the ones that are actually the splash pad maintenance crew and attendants, and they work on the weekend, and actually they go back to school, so we don't have them, along with the seasonal staff kind of doubles the park maintenance staff during the summer. So if you can imagine that you lose half your workforce, not only we lose half the mowers, we lose half of the shelter maintenance folks along with the attendants for the splash pad. It's just, we just don't have enough staff to cover it. And in theory, you know, I think everyone has kind of moved on to school and those kinds of things. Not to say that I don't get a couple calls here and there when it's 85 degrees out, but we're just not able, with the capacity that we have, we're just not able to maintain it at this point.
Okay, Patrick, I see a question?
So we're on staff reports now, right?
Yes.
Okay. I got a couple of questions. Well, one question here on Jorn's report. The second one says pickleball courts in Fahey Field restoration. I didn't go and research and dig this up to look it up myself, but I was wondering if you knew offhand if the contract with that contractor, I don't know the name, who built the pickleball courts for us, was that contract specified that the either Public Works or Park staff or both would do the site restoration around there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I saw they were doing that, and I was kind of wondering.
They kind of did the rough.
Yes.
The rough, and we did
That's
the
exactly,
finish.
yes.
Yep. We
They did the rough, and then Parks and Public Works were doing the final grading, and I was wondering if the contractor was responsible for that. But if Parks and Public Works from the beginning was
Oh, yeah.
intending on doing that, then fine, that went as
That
is.
saved some money.
That's kind of what I was going to ask about relating to inclusive playground staff, Public Works, landscaping.
Combination, yep.
Yeah, okay. I may have, wait a second.
Okay.
I'm looking. Oh,
One more question from Patrick he's working on.
okay. Yeah, I was just going to make a note here in case, well, just to make sure it was covered. In your report on page 312, you already did say that there's going to be the ribbon cutting for the pickleball courts. What was that date again?
Tuesday, the 21st, 6 o'clock. And actually, I thought I sent a save the date.
You did.
Yeah, I thought I did.
Don't have that written down
Pretty
with
good,
me.
yeah.
Also, I just wanted to make a note here of the Mckee Farms Park Car Show that you noted in your report on September 18th.
Yep, that's coming.
And is that now a different car show group or organizer than was done a few years ago that was going to use, what is that park by the hotel?
It is a different group.
Okay.
It is a different group.
Because that group at that time was going to use the park, but then it rained, so then they used the parking lot of the hotel. So this is
That could be.
this is a different car show,
This is,
and this one is in Mckee Farms Park.
yeah.
Okay.
So we are then looking at future agenda items, or is that where I should be, Scott?
Yep.
Okay. Any suggestions or remarks to make?
No, not that I can. I'm sure we'll have something to.
Well, right, there's a lot of things from this
Yep.
meeting that roll into the
Yep.
next few. All right, then, announcements. The next two meetings, October 7th and November 4th, 6 PM.
6, yeah.
And motion to adjourn? Julia? Are
I
you,
move.
okay, a second?
Second.
All right,
Who was that?
in favor?
Sarah?
That's it.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 7:20.
Wow.
Wow.